So it seems like June came and went in the blink of an eye. I think it's worth noting that June began with Donald Trump telling everybody he would be reinstalled as president in August, and June ended with the Trump Organization being criminally indicted. So I'm going to say it was a pretty good month for justice. Here's a quick recap of the month that was June 2021. So, have you seen the new Donald Trump absurdity? He's now saying that he will be reinstalled as president in August. Well, first of all, no, he won't. And second, let's talk about why Donald Trump is now spitting out this particular bit of nonsense. Because justice matters. So some of the insurrectionists are beginning to plead guilty in their criminal cases. And some people are expressing concerns about the plea offers that the prosecutors are extending to some of these defendants. Let's take a hard look at why the prosecutors are doing what they're doing. Because justice matters. So let's do two quick justice updates. One involving Congressman Matt Gaetz. The other involving Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. Why are we updating these two stories? Because justice matters. So we're going to do a top 5 list today, just half of what David Letterman would do. The top 5 reasons why Don McGahn's testimony before Congress today was actually pretty important. Because justice matters. So Donald Trump has made lawlessness fashionable. And because lawlessness begets lawlessness, many state legislatures are now following suit. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So the legal stories in the month of May had their ups and downs, but all in all, I think we continue to trend toward justice. Here's a quick recap of the month that was May 2021. So we just learned that the Department of Justice will defend Donald Trump in the defamation suit brought against him by E. Jean Carroll. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. It was the best of justice. It was the worst of justice. Let's talk about a tale of two DOJs. Because justice matters. So let's talk about where the Department of Justice went wrong in the E. Jean Carroll case and how we can work to fix it. Because justice matters. So we just learned that Bill Barr's Department of Justice subpoenaed some of the electronic communications of sitting members of Congress, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and their staff and some family members. Let's talk about that, because exposing the wrongdoing of Bill Barr and his lackeys and holding them accountable, like justice, matters. So let's talk about why prosecuting Donald Trump and his criminal associates is the single most important and effective thing we can do in our quest to save our democracy. Because justice matters. So is it okay if we take a slightly lighter look at some of the news stories and legal issues kicking around these days? Because relieving stress by laughing every once in a while, like justice, matters. So let's talk about President Biden's speech at the conclusion of the G7 summit today and ask ourselves, where does it put us on the justice front? Because justice matters. Justice is a team sport. And friends, I'm starting to think that we all need to start playing just a little bit harder. Because justice matters. So let's do a quick update on the reporting about Allen Weisselberg, Chief Financial Officer for the Trump Organization, and what New York District Attorney Cy Vance is trying to do with or to Mr. Weisselberg. And then let's do a quick behind-the-scenes prosecutorial peek at how prosecutors go about turning a defendant into a cooperating witness. I can tell you why we do it. Because justice matters. So today actually saw a handful of positive legal stories in the news. Let's spend just a few minutes talking about how today was actually a pretty good day on the justice front. Because justice matters. So in some breaking news today, we learned that the FBI is, in fact, investigating the possible complicity of members of Congress in the insurrection, in the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So it turns out that what Donald Trump incited on January 6th was not just an insurrection. It also qualifies as terrorism, as that term is defined in our federal laws. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So there's some reporting out today that Allen Weisselberg may, for the time being, be standing by his man, Donald Trump. If that's the case, I suspect Allen Weisselberg is about to go through some things. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So let's talk about an article published today by Reuters speculating about what the Department of Justice might do in the lawsuits that have been filed against Donald Trump for inciting the insurrection, for the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. And then let's talk about how the Department of Justice really needs to keep in mind that it's the people's law firm, not the president's law firm. Because justice matters. So over the past 24 hours, there's been lots of speculation about whether the Department of Justice will try to defend Donald Trump in the lawsuits that have been brought against him for inciting the insurrection. What's fueling this speculation? Well, can I suggest that what we've got here is a failure to communicate? Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So the Supreme Court of New York just suspended Rudy Giuliani's license to practice law. Why? Well, ultimately, because justice matters. So Rudy Giuliani just had his law license yanked by a unanimous 5-judge panel in New York. Let's call that accountability part 1. Now, let's talk about accountability parts 2 and 3. Because justice matters. So former police officer Derek Chauvin was just sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison for killing George Floyd. Accountability? Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So it looks like the Trump Organization is almost certainly going to be criminally indicted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And trust me when I say, folks, the consequences of that are enormous. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So Bill Barr just gave an interview to The Atlantic, and he said some things that are going to help sink Donald Trump. Frankly, he said some things that ain't so great for Bill Barr either. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So we remain on Trump Organization indictment watch. And you know, folks, it's not the first indictment that gets handed down by the grand jury that the big criminal fish needs to worry about. It's the final indictment. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. So as we remain on Trump Organization indictment watch, let's try to tackle the following question. Why does it often seem to take so long for prosecutors to indict people for their crimes? Let's talk about that. Because justice, and indeed timely justice, matters. So it looks like tomorrow, we the people might see our first indictment in the post-Trump era. An indictment of the Trump Organization and perhaps one or more of its employees. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters.